So you're an international client looking to buy in Germany, or you're an expat already living in Germany and have struggled to get a right mortgage for you. What can you afford? Can you buy actually the property? What's your interest rate? Are you being discriminated as an international client buying from a high street lender in Germany? All these questions we are checking here with the expert, with Mr. Christopher Reinhardt from Hypofriend. We're as well watching. Christopher, where are you from?
I'm from Berlin.
Berlin? Are you born in Berlin?
Yes, one of the rare breed. Born and raised in Berlin.
Fantastic. So how long you now brokering mortgages to international clients?
I've been working as a mortgage broker for around 8 years. Started with international clients around 6 years back, and special focus is now for the last 4 years.
Okay. So where did you work? Did you always work at Hypofriend?
No, before I started at Hypofriend, I used to be working as a mortgage broker for Interhyp. So most known big mortgage brokering company in Germany, I think so.
Okay. So how many properties have you already mortgaged or financed so far? Do you know? Just ballpark?
Not really. Have never counted. Couple hundreds every year.
Yeah. What is a realistic, typical question from an expat living in Berlin? I think that's your main client, right?
Exactly. Most of our clients are actually expats. So the most important question in the beginning is always regarding their residency status, because that plays a huge role, especially when they're not from the EU. And that, of course, also has a big impact on possible mortgage options.
Today we will also have the 45th Berlin Real Estate Talk regarding financing for expats. So there's going to be a big webinar. There's a lot of questions. Just for you, what is the biggest challenge for international clients to get that mortgage from you?
German bureaucracy, I would say. Of course, language barrier. So all of the banks prepare documents exclusively in German, and then it's just a lot of paperwork to get through, and that needs a lot of hand-holding in most cases.
How much do you charge for the international client to get a mortgage?
We don't charge anything extra for international clients or German clients. In the end, we as a mortgage broker are always paid for by the bank through a certain commission. It's usually between 1 and 1.5% of the mortgage amount.
Okay. How, if I'm an international client, how do I know that you actually will broker the best mortgage for me?
In the end, from our side, we as a mortgage broker work on a platform where more or less all the banks in Germany are registered. We at Hypofriend actually use multiple platforms because there are multiple providers. So we can actually select the banks in any part of Germany that offer the lowest possible rates in these respective areas.
So you work all over Germany or just in Berlin?
As long as the property is in Germany, we can provide a mortgage for that. Okay.
How many people are working in your company now?
We are now around 60 people. Around 50% of that is in sales, and the rest is in IT, in development of our product.
Okay. Can you already see a change in the market? Because I know last year in summer we had a big change. Interest went up from 1% to 4%. What have you seen in the past 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, of course, with the high interest rates, a lot of people were more cautious when buying a property. So we saw less people looking for properties, but especially we are in Berlin. So even though less people are looking for properties, it's still a competitive market. So getting the right property and the right mortgage at the same time is the biggest obstacle there.
What would you advise international clients when they contact you? How should they prepare?
My recommendation for our international clients is always reach out to us as early as possible in the process. So as soon as you think about buying a property, reach out to us so that we can actually lay the groundwork for a later mortgage options. We can look into what is affordable for you, what makes sense in your case, and that enables you to actually go for a property search that actually has a chance of working out later on.
Okay. So if I'm an international client living in the city of Berlin or maybe in any other German city, so what are the biggest problems I'm having? You're just talking about the bureaucracy. That's why I'm calling you, because you're going to fix that problem for me. Exactly. How do I know what kind of property I can afford?
Yeah, We will always, with our clients, look into their individual situation, the income situation, how much savings they can or want to bring in this process. And then we will look into what kind of mortgage options are possible, because the question is, from the bank side, what are you able to afford? But on the other hand, also, what are you willing to afford? So what is your personal budget, aside from what the banks give you as a maximum?
If you check the process itself, so let's say I would give you a ring and say, hi, my name is Achim, I would like to purchase a property in Berlin. I've spoken to a real estate agent. He tells me the property is worth 100,000 euros. What do you tell me after that? I mean, how do you approach the client? Do you help him to understand if the property valuation is correct? Is this also part of your job? Or you just broker the mortgage that this is the rate you can get?
No, especially as we are focusing on our international clients, we know that it just needs a bit more than just the pure mortgage brokering. Yeah. We, of course, look into the process from the beginning, and also when you find a property, we will always check, okay, what are the property value points that you have to look into, but also what are potential things to look out for when discussing a price with a real estate agent.
Okay. Now, what kind of deposit do I need to buy?
In general, that depends on your residency status. So for the banks, residency is always a risk factor. So
can you please explain that a little bit? Because I think a lot of our clients don't know what you mean with residency status.
Okay, so when you come and work in Germany, you get a residency permit. By default, you have a temporary residency, usually for 2 to 4 years, depending on your job. And for the banks, then the question is, how long is that residency permit valid for, and what type? So regular working visa, or maybe a specific one is a blue card in Europe. So if you have a higher educational or professional job, better paid job, then you can apply for a blue card, and that can impact the situation for mortgages as well.
So the first question I'll ask you, if I just came to Germany, I came, let's say, to Berlin, I got a nice job, I have a good salary. Let's say I have 30,000 euro deposit, I saved my money. 9 months down the line, I realized that renting is crazy expensive and that buying is much cheaper, just as an assumption. Then I contact you, and I'm just having a 2-year or maybe 3-year permit. What happens then? Do you just tell me, okay, Achim, there's no chance for you to buy, or what happens then?
No, in the end, we will look into the affordability. So what you always see when you buy a property, you have additional purchase fees. So in Berlin, for example, we have the 6% at the moment. On top of that, we have notary fees between 1.5% to 2%, potential real estate agent fees. And then it's the question, how much are these additional fees? What can you cover? And then we will look into, can you afford the property that you want at the moment? Yeah. Or what needs to happen that you can afford that?
Okay. But my residency is stand out important if I just have a 2-year time, or let's say 3-year time?
It is important for the banks because the sustainability of your income plays a big role. Yeah. But it is possible to get a mortgage, even if you have a temporary residency. So that plays a big role, of course, but we have solutions for these kind of mortgages as well.
Okay, so let's say just start the worst case scenario. I come to you and say, okay, hi, here's my name's Achim. I have 50,000 euros. The property is worth, let's say, 200,000 euros. So I have around 20 to 30% deposit. And I'm just came to Berlin. I would like to buy that because that's cheaper than renting. Would that work?
Sure. You can cover the purchase fees in this case, which is the minimum requirement in this case. So no problem getting a mortgage.
What kind of interest rates? I know this changes all the time. I remember last year where German clients just could buy property with 0.8% interest or maybe 1% interest earlier in the year 2022. And the deposit sometimes was 0% or let's say 10%.
Yeah.
What has changed now?
The interest rate has drastically changed. So compared to what we had in the past where interest rates were 0.8 to 1%, at the moment we're talking about a really good interest rate at 3.5%. Or a bad interest rate, let's say if you bring as little as almost no equity, then could be 4.2, 4.5% for a 10-year fixation.
So let's say we're talking about 1% difference at the moment between 3.5, which is the best case, to 4.5, which is the worst case.
Yeah.
Ballpark figure. So I prefer to have the worst case scenario, 4.5, no money. And then you give me the property. Is this correct?
Depends on your residency status.
Thank you.
because if you have a residency status that is limited, usually you need to bring at least the purchase fees.
Yeah.
But this is something we can always look into, because some people also have a temporary residency, but a partner who has a permanent residency. And so your personal situation might differ.
Thank you. Just in terms of the process itself, how long does it take before I actually know that I can afford a property?
We can do that more or less in the first consultation. If there are some points where I have to double check documents, within 24 hours, I can check whether or not you're able to afford a property, whether or not you're eligible for a mortgage. If you want to later on apply for a loan, banks usually take around a week, 2 weeks to get the entire process complete.
Fantastic. So between the process of, let's say, 14 days, I get the confirmation from a German lender that gives me the mortgage to buy a German property, even though I'm not a German resident, and you would broker that service, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any chance that I could approach the lender directly?
You can, of course, do that. So in the end, you can go to 10 different banks if you want to, and check which is the cheapest one.
Yeah.
This is also a service that I can do with one consultation. So I can check these 10 lenders.
Perfect.
At the same time.
And you don't charge me anything for it, right? Because you get paid from the bank. Okay, got it. Is there anything beside the bureaucracy, the language barrier, and of course property prices? I think everyone talks about property prices here because they think they go down and down and down because interest went up from 1% to 4%. Is there anything you want to tell our listeners and clients today what they should be aware of in the process?
I mean, these are the main factors that you should look into, but specifically when you come look into properties, it depends on, is it an old property? Maybe it needs modernization, or it's a new property that takes a bit of time until it's finished. There are a lot of aspects to look into, but as long as you have clarified your affordability in the beginning, we can look into all the other aspects in a consultation.
Fantastic. Do you offer consultations on like today on Zoom, or do you have to come to your office? How does this work?
So we actually used to do a lot of appointments in our office, changed of course with COVID.
Yeah.
So we are fully remote at the moment. So we offer primarily video calls. Our main platform here is Google Meet. Any other platform also works. And then we will go through everything. I can share my screen. This is always important for us to also be transparent about the entire process.
So even let's say I'm actually not living in Germany and I earn my money, let's say in a different country, different nation, and I would like to buy to let a property in Germany. Is this still possible?
It is still possible. It's not easy at the moment because the banks have gotten a lot more restrictive. But in general, if your situation is right, yes, you can still buy properties in Germany.
Okay. Would I pay a higher interest than a German, let's say, citizen or someone who lives in Germany, or do I need to come up with a higher deposit, or how does this work?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
In general, the banks like to see that you bring a higher deposit, and also the sustainability of the mortgage has to be shown. So can this property, if it's rented out, sustain itself with the rental income?
Okay. So cash flow wise, it should work, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's it.
Probably your own goal as well.
Great. Perfect. If you have any questions, how do I contact you?
You can just go on our website. So at Hypofriend, set up an own account, put in your details, and schedule a meeting with one of our advisors right away online as soon as you are ready to look into the process.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.